Yo, so today I'm going to be breaking down two dark melodies. I think they're kind of like Gunna, Lil Keed, maybe Lil Baby kind of stuff. I don't know, they're both kind of cool. Alright, so the first one I'm going to be breaking down sounds like this. So with this one, it's more simple, like repetitive, and just like one bass melody with like a bunch of accents to fill it out. So for the first sound in this one, I use this chord called Dreamlike from Serum, and it plays the most simple pattern. Here it is. It's very simple. There's really not much to explain, so I'm just going to go ahead and play it without effects first, and it sounds like this. So it's very simple. And then when we put effects on it, it sounds a little bit cooler. So now it sounds like this. So it sounds a lot cooler overall, but it's like a little bit slower, but it still has enough energy for it to be like the bass sound of the melody. And the effects I put on it were halftime, and then I turned the mix to 90%, so you still do get some of that like faster, like high-end kind of stuff. And then a fruity phaser, I believe it's like an underwater preset. It didn't like save the preset. I'm pretty sure it's either the deep fish or the aqua nice. And I turned that down about halfway, and then pancake on the bigger preset, LFO at 2 bars. So yeah, so then I went ahead and rendered that out, and then rendered it out again and just reversed it. And that's really the only like variation in the melody. Everything else is super repetitive, and it's just the same thing. It's just reversed, so it sounds like this. So it's just a little bit different. And then after that, I went into Omnisphere and grabbed the Growler Moog bass. And again, very simple MIDI, just plays the root note, and then it cuts off right here. This was because when I play the sound, it kind of has like a rising effect almost, and I wanted it to cut off there. Just sounded nice. Really, again, not much to explain. So here's this. And then I went ahead and rendered that out as well. All right, and then after that, to really fill out the melody, I grabbed this wash piano from Omnisphere, and it basically just has a lot of reverb and fills up a lot of space. And the MIDI, again, super simple, but it just copies the bass notes at 3 different octaves and then plays this F at the end just to kind of transition. And then I also went ahead and strummed and randomized this, so the velocities are just a little bit more like humanized. So here's what this sounds like. So as you can hear, a lot of reverb, very like dark sounding, and fills up that like low end of the melody. So just real quick, I'm going to play everything that we have so far. So here's what like the start of the melody sounds like. So after that, I went into the Flowers Volume 1, I'm pretty sure, one-shot kit, and grabbed this mallet. It's called Vibey. And I just played out a super simple pattern. Basically just copies notes from the chords, and I went up here and I changed my little magnet thing to 3rd beat, so it's playing in triplets, so it sounds pretty cool. Just picked random notes from the chord, and then did like a little arpeggio thing, I guess. And then did this little like roll at the end of every 2 bars. So this just kind of like sits in the back of the melody, adds a little extra something, a little bit of ear candy. And here's what it sounds like. and that just repeats over another 4 bars. And then for the effects on that, reverb, tape cassette 2 with the wow and the flutter turned up, the old telephone EQ, and then pancake on that same preset that we used before. And then I went ahead and rendered that out twice again and reversed 1 bit. And I just wanted a little bit of a reverse chop for the end to kind of spice it up a little bit. So with that reverse chop, the mallet sound like this. So it just adds a little something, and it just comes in at the end of every 8 bars. So the last 2 sounds I really could have just left out, but wanted to add them anyways. So this one is another one shot from one of the exotic kits, I think they're called, and it's the humbled pluck. And it just does this super simple like counter melody. I just clicked stuff in until something sounded good. So again, not really much explaining for this melody in particular. But yeah, here's what this sounds like. So again, just add something a little bit cool in the background. And then finally, the last sound, which is like the top line, but I didn't really like the way it sounded, so I just kind of lowered it in the mix a lot, so it just kind of sits in the back, is this Mellow Planetron from Omnisphere. It's in the Trons and Optical section under Fluty Colors. And yeah, and I modified the sound a little bit, so I turned on solo and glide and turned glide up to 1, and then did this pattern so it's kind of bendy back and forth. Yeah, again, didn't really like the way this sounded in the end, but I left it in just because. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for like the melodic components of the melody. So I can go through the mixing real quick. I already showed what I did on most of the stuff that I rendered out. And then on those 2, like the chord ARP kind of thing, I just put imager and cut the lows on both of them. On the piano, just cut the lows. On the mallet, nothing. On the reverse mallet, just a little bit of reverb. On the pluck, reverb, EQ, and then a love filter, just with the cut knob at the normal place. And then on that top line, I didn't really like this EQ, reverb with the decay turned way up, you can see right there. And then tape cassette 2 again. And this is also a free plugin. It's a pretty good alternative to like RC20 and stuff like that. And of course you can get like isotope vinyl too. Oh yeah, and then I also put this accent in. It's from Space Coop's new one-shot kit. Yeah, and I just wanted that to play. It just adds a little something, sounds like this. It doesn't really add much to the melody, but it does have like a cool layer kind of thing. Yeah, and then finally I added this gross beat preset. It's the basic 8, and it just reverses at the end. And I did this because the transition from the non-reversed like main melody to the reversed melody was a little bit rough. So I figured if I put this in right here, it would reverse it in this section. So then it would be a little bit of more smooth transition. And I think it worked out pretty well. Although this is like completely off time, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that real quick. So it should be like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the first melody, and now we can go ahead and move on to the second one. Alright, so this second melody is more like similar to stuff I've done in the past, but I still figured I'd show it because I did some little bit of different things, and it sounds pretty cool overall. So here's what this melody sounds like. Yeah, so I think this one turned out pretty well. It wasn't exactly how I wanted it, but overall, pretty decent. Alright, so for the bass sound and the melody, I went again into the Trons and Optical section, and I grabbed this Choir Work 1, and it just plays this pretty simple pattern. So I started off by coming up with this, which is just the bass notes with a little chop in the center, and then this little, like, again in a 1/3 step, and just kind of add some rhythm to it. So I'll go ahead and play like the bass of it. So it's very like fast and repetitive, but that's kind of what I wanted. And then after I had that, I duplicated it over, as you can see here. And then I went ahead and just added triad chords on top. And then, like the other melody, just flipped the middle note down one. It just tends to give it a really dark, nice feel. And then just copy that over and again and again. So I feel like with dark melodies, it's really not about super complex patterns, but how you layer the melodies and what like effects really like bring it to life and stuff. So yeah, that chord thing just kind of repeats throughout the melody. And then I just did this little simple top line with a stutter at the beginning, then it goes up, down. Very simple. And these notes are the same as the middle notes in the chord that give it a dark feel. So it all kind of is like together. So here's what this bass melody sounds like. So yeah, it's a pretty cool melody overall. And then I routed that to the mixer on mixer 1, put tape cassette, wow and flutter turned up again, and then love filter with the cut knob turned to here. Did this EQ to cut the lows and the highs because there was some like harsh frequencies, so if I put it up, it has more high end, but I didn't really like the way that sounded. And then lastly, imager, and then a EQ just kind of fade out the lows. So then for that, I rendered it out and reversed it. Just did the thing where you chop it up and then reverse the order so it stays in the same chord progression, but the melody's still reversed. So after I did that, it sounded like this. And I also pitched it up one. And then later on, when I was doing the arrangement, I also duplicated that on top of itself, pitched it up an octave just to have some more variation. All right, and then for the next sound in this melody, I went and grabbed a piano from Omnisphere again, well, Keyscape, but it's the dark score piano, and I've been using this one a lot, especially for like emotional, like Ian Dior type piano melodies, but I wanted to throw it in this one too. And it basically just copies the same pattern as the first one, but I made some changes. So this bass note doesn't repeat, the chords don't repeat, and overall it's just a little bit more like open and simple, and that's what I wanted. And I believe I also pitched this up an octave, so it's a little bit higher. And then I did a more dramatic strum and randomization to make it feel like an actual piano. And then I'm going to go ahead and play this without the effects real quick, just so you can like hear the difference with and without effects. So here's this without effects. So as you can hear, very like loud, heavy kind of sound. And then I went ahead and put effects on it. And then after, it sounds like this. So it just sounds a lot more pleasing and just better overall. And the effects I put on that were tape cassette, again, I've been using this a lot, wow and flutter turned up, delay on the resonator preset, I'm pretty sure, the old telephone EQ, and then pancake to make it go side to side, put the LFO on 4 bars. So I think those two melodies sound pretty cool together, so I'm going to go ahead and play them real quick. They really blend nicely because they're not taking up each other's like space in the EQ, if that makes sense. Because this reverse melody has like the low end, and then the piano melody has the telephone EQ, which is like the high end. So then they kind of like merge together almost. So the next sound is the coffee can kalimba felt. I use this one a lot. It's like my favorite kalimba mallet preset. And overall it's the same pattern again, but everything's pretty much the same. But then like the piano pattern, I took out this second note in the first like chord kind of thing. And then instead of having these chords repeat, I went ahead and like arpeggiated them and changed the notes a little bit. So there's just like more variation, and it's different from all the other melodies. So those are the only like changes I did in this melody. And then again, it's strummed, and then the velocities are all crazy to make it feel more bouncy. But this is the part of the melody that I wasn't really that happy with. I was trying to go for like a super duper like bouncy, like messy almost kind of like style, but that didn't really turn out, and this sounds all right anyways. So here's this melody. And then that just repeats over another 4 bars. And then the next sound after that is another mallet. It's the generic mallet from, again, one of those exotic one-shot kits, which are really good. But it's this mallet. And then for the envelope, I turned the hold, sustain, and then the release just a little bit up, so it doesn't clash with each other, but it still isn't like, it doesn't like cut off right when the note ends, like how you want an 808 to be, if that makes sense. But it just plays this super simple pattern and copies the arpeggiating chords from the last mallet pattern. So here's what this sounds like. It sounds very cool, and I probably should have played it without the effects, but I'll just go ahead and break that down now. The reason why it sounds so cool is the Valhalla Space Modulator, which is a free plugin, infinite violin flange up preset. It sounds pretty cool, and then reverb, and then old telephone EQ, of course. So I'm gonna go ahead and play those two mallets together real quick. So I think those layer pretty nicely and sound. So for the next sound, I went back into the Flowers Volume 1 and then grabbed the Noah flute and put it on like where the first clap hits. I've been doing this with like accent sounds sometimes. Like I think I did it in that last piano video I did with like a bell or something. This is all it does, very simple. And here's what it sounds like. And then after that, I went into Contact and grabbed another flute. It is the Persian key, I want to say. Persian nay. And this is a free Contact sound, but it just does this little roll and then like the grace note kind of thing. But overall, just like the other flute, very simple. And they kind of like go off each other because they're not like playing on top of each other. Again, very simple. And then for the last like melodic sound besides the bass, I went into Contact again and I grabbed the Yang Queen. Not really sure how to say that, but it sounds pretty cool. This is again another free Contact bank, but it just plays this pattern, and it's just a little accent melody to sit on the top of everything. Well, actually, I don't think it saved what like edits I did to the actual sound, so I'm gonna go ahead and open that back up. I think I turned the tremolo up to like here. Yeah, so it sounds like this. Yeah, and then just in that second half, the D is pitched up. And then for the last sound, like I said before, it's a bass. It's the Big Fatty from Omnisphere. And then it just plays this pattern, copies the bass notes. And I made sure to layer it because it's like a slide kind of thing, so it all kind of blends together. And then I did this little roll at the end. I thought it just sounded kind of cool. And I also edited this sound as well. So I went to the section A and then just turned the attack up. It was on 0 and I put it on 0.223 seconds because there was like a clicking noise at the beginning and I didn't want that. So here's what this pattern sounds like. Yeah, so that's one of like my favorite bass patterns I've did in a while. It's pretty cool. All right, and then I'll go over the mixing real quick for the stuff that I didn't mention already. So I think I showed that on the mallet, showed that on the flute, just put some reverb with the decay turned up, and then this EQ. Then on the other flute, nothing. Then on the Yang Queen, old telephone EQ, reverb, and pancake. And then on the bass, just did this to make it sound really deep and less high, because there was some like high frequencies in it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then for this arrangement, just kind of took everything in and out as I saw fit. Didn't do any automation clips or anything, so it's pretty simple overall. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully OBS recorded. It'd be really bad if it didn't. But yeah, hyperpop video this week, because that's what won the poll. So I'm gonna do one or maybe two of those if I'm feeling it, if I make some good hyperpop melodies. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a splendid rest of your day.